Now let's talk about a game from Eagle Gryphon Games. It's called Xenon Profiteer. This is a deck building game where you're basically at an air distillery trying to draw in air, distill the xenon from the air, bottle it up in these cool little cards. I was going to say bottles, but you don't actually do that. You just take them out of your hand. And then you fulfill contracts that, companies want however many bottles of, xenon. And then after so many rounds, basically, somebody's either going to reach 5 upgrades or 5 contracts, and the game's going to come to an end, and you play a final round. And then basically you just add up points or whatever. And it's a deck builder. And what I thought is really interesting about this one is that most deck builders, you get a huge deck, but deck thinning isn't that big of a deal, even unless you go for it,
Right.
And this one, it's like the whole game is about thinning your deck. Because just to let everybody know, because I think this is a newer game. I mean, it came out within the last month or so. I'm pretty sure it either just went retail or something. I don't know. Sounds like I don't know anything about this anymore.
Yes.
But what's cool is, like, on your turn, you can distill. And what that means is before you distill, you're going to be grabbing packets of air. And a packet of air is 4 cards. You've got nitrogen, oxygen, krypton, and xenon. Xenon's what you want. The problem is when you do your distill action, you only get 1. And so if you have a hand of cards, say you got 5 cards, and you got 2 nitrogen, 1 oxygen, a xenon, and a special card. Special cards don't count in this instance. So you do your distill action, you get rid of your top layer material.
Right.
Which it puts it on the card for ease. But you get rid of all the nitrogen. Now you have an oxygen and a xenon. Well, if you have xenon left in your hand, at the end of the distill phase, you get to put those bottles on the table. Otherwise, they're stuck in your hand. So then you can use special cards to get those out or whatever. But that's the deck thinning portion of it. You're trying to distill cards or whatever. So what did you think about it?
It was interesting. It was I liked the because you pretty much, in typical deck building game where there's a row of cards to buy from, the bidding chips, because you do use money to buy your upgrade. So it was nice to be able, I kind of like that, so let me throw a bidding chip on it. And if someone else gets it before me, that's fine. I still made money on it because it pretty much they had to make up the difference based on how many bidding chips were on it. And it might not only be yours on it. So
yeah.
It also made you kind of calculate, is it worth me paying like 3 people $2 extra, to get this one card that we're all wanting. Yeah, it was I don't know, it was an interesting, unique game. I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Yeah, I think they took the deck building is pretty much getting overdone now. Right. So there's just so many deck builders. It's easy to come out with a deck builder and rip off the whole Dominion style of deck building. But it takes an innovative game to come out with something fresh. And I think they kind of did it with this, even though it really isn't changing anything. It's just the way it's presented and the way it, because you're buying cards from a row, like Ascension.
Right.
You're thinning your deck like any deck builder, pretty much.
Right, to optimize.
Right. So you're doing all the same stuff, but what makes it really good is the fact that that's what you're supposed to be doing. It's very clear. It's very precise on what you need to do. Now, what I thought was really cool, like you said, the bidding tokens. I mean, there's like 2 rows of stuff to buy from. You put bidding tokens out there, and it's kind of like, I'm going to get it cheaper with these bidding tokens, and you got to pay me money if you're going to buy it, in addition to the cost of the card. So it's kind of like most deck builders, you're kind of just, the only thing that really involves the player interaction is cards that say other people have to discard cards, right? Or in Ascension, like you buy stuff from the middle, and now that card's gone.
Right.
Like stuff like Dominion, there's not a whole lot of interaction unless you buy tons of expansions. But base Dominion, I always compare base game to base game, even though I guess it's slightly unfair because Xenon came out far after it, but I don't care. So with Dominion, base game, like you got the attack cards or whatever, and then if they have a moat in their hand, they can show it and they can block against it or whatever. Otherwise, they're discarding cards. Everything's like a discard a card. In this game, you have ways to influence the middle without actually doing anything to the middle. You're getting a piece of the pie, basically.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. That was a long build up to say it was really cool. No. It is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I don't think I can add anything else on it, but yeah, it was enjoyable. I had a good time with that one.
Yeah. And it's relatively short. I think it's a good size for the game it is.